Hey everyone, it's Leah. Just popping on here today. I want to talk a little bit about knowing the importance of what's in your food when you're dealing with food sensitivities. This is something that so many people struggle with, and so many people get stuck. Sorry, there's a little something going on there. So many people get stuck with this because when you're eating out, grabbing convenience foods, getting to the point where your drops so low that you'll eat whatever's in sight, this is so detrimental to your gut and really being in control of your food sensitivities. So, I just want to talk a little bit about that today, that there are things that we can do to really know what's in our food so that we know what we're eating. And if you know what your food sensitivities are, that can be a game changer. Just knowing how to learn what's in your food and eat things that support your body. This is such a big part of this process and of this journey for each of us. And I know we're all at kind of different stages and levels with it. And so I want to say, this doesn't mean you can't ever eat out or ever grab convenience foods, but being in control of your food sensitivities is so much more doable, and really finding lasting relief from all the symptoms is so much more doable when you know when you're actually consuming, right? Because there are additives and preservatives and added sugars and natural flavors and so many things in our food these days that we can be reacting to. And it doesn't have to be that main ingredient, it can be those additional things that might be stopping up your system and really creating digestive chaos in your body. So, let's talk a little bit about the 3 steps that can help you um, to really know what's in your food. There's 3 main areas that I want to talk about today. 3 things that you can do, starting right now to really learn more about what you're eating and to get more familiar with the ingredients that you're putting in your food. So the first thing is eating whole foods. So this is so important because when you're eating whole foods, that is the ingredient, not an ingredient on a label, and you're going to know what that food consists of. Now, given these days, there can also be pesticides and chemicals and not so great farming practices that go along with that, and those things can also impact your system. But eating whole foods is such a great place to start. Whether it's organic, if you're able to, that's amazing because it really limits the amount of the super harsh chemicals. Even though there can still be chemicals on, and there are still chemicals on organic foods. They're less harsh, and there's a lot more regulation and standards around what can be put on there. So even if you're not able to eat organic, just switching to whole foods and eating things that you know what it is and that there aren't additives and things like that to it is super, super important and can be really, really powerful for people. The next thing that I want to talk about is reading labels on foods. So this is super important. It's a practice. People can get kind of overwhelmed at first, but no, the more you do this, the more you're familiar with what's going in your food, and you'll know and start to become more familiar with the ingredients that are on labels. And over time you get used to kind of what it is. And I would say that a good rule of thumb when you're starting is, if you can't read it, one, and if you don't know what it is, number two, then we probably shouldn't be eating it. Sometimes it's just a form of a vitamin, um, or something that maybe isn't so harmful. But until you know that, you won't be able to tease out those big words and know really what's what. So this is a really important practice because it, again, will let you know what you're consuming, and you may not be reacting to the main ingredient in something. You could be reacting to one of the additives or the other things. So, number one, eating whole foods. Number two, reading your labels so that you know if you are going to eat packaged foods or anything that comes in any sort of container, knowing to some extent what's in there. So, for example, in natural flavors, there can be gluten, there can be different dairy additives or dairy derived additives. There are additives derived from corn. Like, really, with natural flavors, it's such a catch all unless you really know the company and the product. Like, there can literally be so many different things. There can be MSG in there. There can be so many different things in that little term. And, the way that the guidelines around what they have to put on our labels are, above a certain amount, or and there's a lot of little loopholes that companies can take and just kind of group it into something that sounds okay, like natural flavors, right? That doesn't sound too bad. It says natural in front of it. And, the flavors could be natural, but they also could be from all kinds of other sources. And they could be things that are either have more chemicals and are more harsh, or just that you don't individually agree with or your body reacts to. So over time, those things can really add up. And, for some of us, it only takes a tiny bit to really kind of tip you over your threshold of what you can tolerate. So eating whole foods, reading your labels, getting familiar with what you're putting in your body. And then the other piece around this is home cooking. So number three is really the more you can cook at home and cook from scratch, you'll know what's in your food. You'll know whether it's a whole food or a packaged food. You'll know what's on that label. And again, if you're not a big home cook, this is a practice and a process. But one that can be so valuable, and really for the people who are further on their journey and having symptoms every day, sometimes this is one of the only things we can do to really find relief. So whether you've taken a food sensitivity test or you found out your sensitivities through eliminating and testing foods, or you don't know your sensitivities, wherever you're at with that, home cooking and these things that we're talking about today, home cooking, reading labels, and eating whole foods, all three of those things, no matter where you're at, can be really helpful. So we have a lot more awareness when we know what's in our food and can start to gather clues and kind of do some detective work around what's actually affecting your body and what you're individually sensitive to, because this is so different for all of us. It really never ceases to amaze me. People can react to healthier foods. People can react to more of the common trigger foods or the bigger allergens. Some people come back with a food sensitivity test that's got 99 different foods on it that they're sensitive to. And so when we're looking at really healing that underlying gut dysfunction, which is what needs to happen to find lasting relief, and I'll talk about that in another video soon, not putting Band-Aids on those symptoms. But anyway, when we're really talking about healing that underlying gut dysfunction, it's super important to know what you're eating to be able to do that. And so that's why I felt like I really wanted to talk about this today, as I see my clients and people I speak with and women all the time getting stuck here because it's really confusing and convoluting if you're trying to figure out what you're sensitive to, but you don't know what you're actually putting in your body in the first place. So this is such a good first step. And so to add on a little bit more about home cooking, there's things that we can do to prevent us from kind of grabbing those convenience foods that we don't know what there are. Things like meal planning and meal prepping and preparing in advance as well, having snacks on hand, and really, kind of organizing our week where where we know what we're going to eat. We have some things, if we're in a pinch or if our sugar crashes, that we can eat quickly, that we know we do okay with. All of those things come back to home cooking, because you've got to be able to prepare. And I mean, there are things that you can buy and have on hand for some of us. Again, as long as you know what's in that product, what's on, what the label actually means, and that there aren't just kind of hidden ingredients in there as well. So yeah, being able to meal prep and have some things on hand in advance, have some quick meals, have some snacks, have some things like that is super powerful and such a game changer, because then, again, when you're in a pinch, you're not reaching for convenience foods or eating out when you didn't intend to. And so, I do want to talk a little bit about eating out as well here, because I know that that's something that so many of us enjoy. I love eating out, and it used to be a really big part of our lives. We still go out, but now I pick and choose more, and I really love that, because also I'm spending my money on a meal that I've chosen and that I really am ready for. And also, maybe I find a place that has foods that can make me feel good, that has more whole foods that my body loves, and I come home feeling great instead of having that big crash afterwards. So, I think when we're used to not cooking so much at home, then a lot of us we're eating out regularly and grabbing things, or just relying on whatever restaurant is nearby and open. But with this planning piece, and cooking at home most of the time, like, it is still totally feasible to eat out. So I don't want you to feel like this means that you can never do that again. And for some people with really severe sensitivities, until they get to a better place with their gut and with their digestive health, that may be true for a while, that we really do need to take enough of a step back to get to the underlying causes and let things heal. But for a lot of us, we can still go, and also once you've healed, we can still go, and it's just knowing. Again, it's that awareness about what the restaurants are serving. Do they serve salmon and rice and veggies that I can ask for in a way where it's not just loaded up with sauces and has, maybe wheat flour in there to thicken the sauce, or soy sauce that has wheat in it? Because for me, gluten is something that I still don't really splurge on very often. And a lot of people can. Some people come back to that. That was just kind of my biggest sensitivity and one of my biggest triggers, and it's just become not worth it to me personally. But my family and I, we still do go out to eat. We can hit up a taco truck here and there. And as you practice this more, you'll know more what you can order, and what works for you and what doesn't. So I just want to put in a little plug for eating out, that is not something that just has to be completely taken off the plate. But the more you can organize and plan and have awareness around it, the better you're going to do, versus kind of, if you're going 2 to 3 days a week, you could have like multiple setbacks in a week and then never really get to a place where you're feeling actually better. So, yeah, it's just something that keeps people so stuck, is not knowing what's in they're eating, and then it gets into this cycle of confusion and lack of clarity, and it becomes really convoluted to tease out what you're actually sensitive to, because we don't actually really know what we're putting in our body. And understanding that foods can have a reaction for 72 hours if it's an immediate sensitivity. It may come up immediately, it may come up in 72 hours, but there's also this idea of that foods can, and not just an idea, but the concept around that foods can accumulate in our system, and at some point we hit our threshold where we just can't take anymore. So, knowing that, and knowing that we have to do this detective work to tease things out, this is such a big first step, and it's such an amazing thing to do, and increases your awareness and your knowledge of what's going into your body, and what are the possibilities that I'm sensitive to. So hopefully that's really helpful for you. If you want more information, more support, more guidance on this, I'd love to chat. I offer a free coaching session where we can dive into what this looks like for you, where you're getting stuck, what your challenges and struggles are, and then also I can help you kind of come up with a plan to move forward and to become unstuck. That's what I want for all of us is it's so hard to find answers in this area, and that's why I do this work. And I really want you and me and all of us, not just the women out there. I really speak a lot to women because that's what my group and that's kind of my niche. But this is true for all of us to have the awareness that we need to be able to get unstuck and get out of this cycle of symptoms and food restrictions. And that doesn't mean you'll be able to eat everything for all of us. Some people can go back to eating everything and they just know their moderations around it. There are certainly people who add in a lot of the foods that they're now sensitive to. But it's just this idea that as long as we stay stuck in this cycle, the damage continues in our gut. The underlying dysfunction becomes bigger and bigger, and we're just not able to really ever find that relief and get back to putting our attention to the things that we love in life, to really showing up fully in our life. So I want that so much for you, and I know it's possible. So if you want to do that free coaching session, I'm going to link my calendar below. Click on the link and you can go in and find a spot that works for you. If you don't see a time that works, just reach out to me with an email. It's on that page. And we'll find a time where we can chat and really kind of get you moving in the right direction. So thanks so much for joining me today. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.